Yes, I made this at home. Yes, it tastes like the one from the takeaway. And yes, you can make it too. Here's how you do it. The actual cooking only takes a few minutes. Most of the work is prep. First we need one of these. This is a curry base. Most restaurants and takeaways will have a big pot of this cooking at all times. You can think of it sort of like a stock for the curry. The amount we're going to make will probably make enough for about 3 or 4 curries. I'll start by bringing 1.5 liters of water to a boil. Meanwhile, I'll quarter 4 big onions and peel the skins apart like this. You can never have enough garlic. 4 or 5 cloves will probably do it. Want to peel them faster? Watch my latest video where I go through all the techniques that you can use to peel garlic faster. Anyways, throw in some fresh coriander and minced garlic into the bowl as well. Throw all that into a pot with a couple of teaspoons coriander and cumin and a pinch of turmeric, and finally the kicker, half a cup of vegetable oil. Yes, that is a lot of oil. Indian takeaway food isn't diet food. If that half a cup of oil scares you, turn the video off now. Anyway, pinch of salt, lid on loosely, and leave it to simmer for about an hour. An hour later, it should be looking a little bit like this. Time to add chopped tomatoes. 200 grams fresh or from a tin, doesn't matter. Leave that to simmer. After 20 minutes, bring it off the heat to cool down. When it's ready, out comes the food processor and in goes the cooled curry base. I blend it up on high until consistent and looking like that. Meanwhile, I'll wipe the pan clean and back in the curry base goes. I'll simmer that for another hour until the oil separates from everything else. This is a natural process that we want to happen. Mix it back in and it's ready to go. I use about 300 ml of this stuff per curry, so I'll keep that simmering and portion the rest into freezer bags. Moving on, let's make the chicken tikka. 2 boneless chicken breasts, skin off or skin on, doesn't matter, whatever you prefer. When I've got the time, I like to generously season both sides of the breast at least a day before I actually cook them. This is the process called dry brining. The salt squeezes moisture from the breast so that when you actually come to cook it, it's much drier. That makes the texture more firm and leads to more browning, which makes the chicken even more delicious. But if you don't have the time to season it overnight, that's fine. Just salt it now. I seasoned this breast overnight, so now I'm draining off the excess moisture. You can dab it with a paper towel as well to get rid of more moisture, but these breasts were quite dry, so I didn't bother. Oven to 200 degrees Celsius, that's about 400 Fahrenheit. Breasts get chopped up into bite-sized pieces. We're going to marinate these breasts. In a bowl, mix together 3 to 4 tablespoons of vegetable oil and 2 tablespoons tandoori masala powder. Any stuff will do. This stuff's generally just chili powder and some Indian spices. Just get the supermarket's own brand or make your own. It's really easy. Finally, we'll add a pinch of salt and an ingredient that's in almost every Indian restaurant's arsenal, red food colouring. If you don't add this stuff, you're going to get orange chicken tikka. Can you get the red colour with chili powder? No, I don't think so. I tried adding half a shaker of Kashmiri chili powder once. Even that didn't add the deep blood red tinge that chicken tikka masala has. Does the food colouring really matter? Well, if you want the colour, then yeah. But it's not going to change the taste, so if the taste is all you care about, just leave it out. Anyway, a few drops of that into the mix and stir it up. Take each piece of breast, dip it into the mixture and then line it up on the roasting tray. Don't slather it, it just needs a thin coating. Dip, coat, tray. Dip, coat, tray. Keep going until you've got all the breasts covered. If there's any marinade left in the bowl at the end, take any pieces that look like they could do with a top up and give them a little recoat. Probably a good time for a Halloween costume. You can leave them to marinate for a few hours at this point, but I didn't and they turned out fine. Get them in the oven for 15 to 20 minutes. 20 minutes later and look at that browning. Salt help? Definitely. Here's a batch cooked at the same time without being salted the night before. See how it doesn't have any of those black marks? Okay, now for the actual curry. We've still got a little bit of prep to do. Like I said, the actual cooking is over in a matter of minutes, so I like to have everything ready to go before I turn on the stove. First, mince up a clove of garlic and a chunk of peeled ginger as finely as possible. You can use garlic and ginger paste, but I think the fresh stuff tastes better. Set that aside. Let's put together a spice mix. Okay, 1 tablespoon of that tandoori masala from earlier, whichever one you used for the breasts, half a teaspoon of Kashmiri chili powder and half a teaspoon of paprika, quarter teaspoon of cumin, a few cranks of black pepper, and a big pinch of salt. Why did I choose these spices? Well, these are the spices that I like. I mean, don't go out and buy any of these spices that I've used, just use whatever spices you've got. Most Indian spices will work fine. Next, a tomato mixture. Either measure out 4 tablespoons of this stuff, pasada, that's tomato puree for our brothers and sisters across the pond. If you don't have that, you can use 1.5 tablespoons of tomato puree, that's tomato paste in the US, diluted with a couple of tablespoons of water. Mix that up and set it aside. Last piece of prep, coconut milk. You've got two choices here. You can either go for half a tin of full fat coconut milk, or you can go for the stuff I've got here in this IKEA bag. Dried coconut milk powder. I'll mix up a tablespoon of brown sugar with the powder. If you're using milk, just add a tablespoon to that directly. If you're using the powder, mix it up with your hands first and then whisk the stuff up with water, and there you go. Easier than having a bunch of tins on hand, isn't it? Anyway, just keep adding water until it has the viscous texture of coconut milk. Sorry, I forgot to get a shot inside of the bowl. You're just going to have to guess what that looks like inside. Anyway, put that aside and let's cook this thing. Make sure that curry base from earlier is still simmering on the hob. Skillet on the hob, medium-high heat, and add 3 tablespoons of vegetable oil until shimmering. First I throw in the garlic and ginger and I stir constantly until it stops spluttering. Got to be very careful here because you don't want it to burn. Heat comes down and then in goes the spice mix. We'll stir that constantly for 30 seconds. This process is called blooming, basically adding spices to hot fat. It releases the flavour from the spices that you wouldn't get if you just added the spices at the end. I've got a whole other video on that if you want to learn more, link in the description. If you're on an electric hob like me, be careful. The heat doesn't change as fast as it does on a gas or induction stove, so if the spices look like they're going to burn, lift the pan off the hob. Back to medium-high and in goes the tomato mixture. Stir, stir, stir for about 30 seconds to a minute until bubbles form. Now, here comes the curry base. Half a ladle or so, stir, stir, stir until bubbles form, probably another 30 seconds. Then add a full ladle of the curry base. Same again, stir, stir, stir until bubbles form. When the bubbles have started to form, add the rest of the curry base and, you guessed it, same again. Stir, stir, stir until bubbles form. At this point, I turn the heat down to low immediately because electric, but if I was on a gas, I'd have waited until bubbles formed. Minute or so later, in goes the coconut milk mixture. I switch to a whisk at this point just to make it easier to mix everything together. Then chicken goes in and a little more of the red colouring. Add enough until you get about the colour that you're looking for. Let that simmer for about 5 minutes and give it a little stir if you need to. After 5 minutes, finish it off with a quarter cup of double cream, that's about 60 millilitres, and stir. Adding that double cream made it a little bit too pale for me here, so I added a little bit more of that food colouring. Finally drop in a few little squeezes of lemon juice, taste it and adjust the sugar and salt as needed. I mean, God, look at that. It's a real chicken tikka masala made entirely at home. I mean, it's unhealthy as sin, but it tastes so good. I usually serve that up with some boiled rice and a little side salad. Naans and chapatis would be good too, or even just on its own. You do you. Add some chopped coriander on there as well if you want to give it a touch that you really won't get from any takeaway. So yes, this is delicious. We can put that down mainly to the oil, to be honest, but there are more ways than just copious amounts of oil to achieve great tasting food. Another route is to master the ominous fifth taste, umami. Come back next week to find out how.